Okay, so let's get started since we have the tight window of an hour at our lunchtime, Deon. So let us get started. Are you ready for us to get started?
Sure,
Yeah.
why not? I was hoping that, hi Kai,
Okay.
that we had other persons. I don't know if you want to give them one more minute. It's
We
just
can.
12:01. So we can give them
Absolutely.
another minute and then start.
Yeah, man, no problem. I know everybody at lunchtime is sometimes running late and whatnot, so it happens. Okay, Kai said she'll be right back. No problem. People will pop in. Let's see who else is. Oh, somebody calling. Type in. Nicky.
I think Kai dropped off.
Yeah, she'll jump in soon. A friend coming in from, hopefully she'll log in from Germany.
Nothing is perfect. Life is
Okay, nice.
There she is. No, this is Kai back. I guess she jumped out. Okay. All right, let's get started then. So somebody coming in. Here. Let me just.
That's celebrating from the 1st right to the 31st.
All right. All right. Great.
No problem.
But your
Birthday to all when it comes.
Hold on, I think I have something playing.
Have a wonderful
yes,
day.
you do.
Then.
Technology. This is the fun part. Okay, let's get started. Welcome. You're good? You're sorted? Hi,
Yes, I'm good.
Welcome from Germany. I'm so thrilled you joined us. Thank you so much for popping in here, honey. It's so appreciated. All right, so we're going to get started because I know I have some other people have messaged saying they're going to try and jump on shortly. So, but since we have this window of 1 hour as our lunchtime, let us jump and get started. So today is our fourth and final Menopause Mondays in May, but I do have to say that we are continuing it in June, Deon.
Oh, nice.
I am so excited. It's just everybody's been wanting it so badly. So I said, absolutely, we have 3 guests lined up. So I'm so excited to do that in June. So we are, Natalie and I are pumped to be doing this. So this is our last one for May. Huh?
Is Natalie going
So
to be able to join us today? Because I know she was in transition.
Yeah, she's traveling, but and I messaged her this morning. She said her flight was delayed, so she said she doesn't think she's going to be able to jump on, but she says that if she can, she definitely will. So it'll just be you and me having this discussion today. So I'm so excited to do this. So let's get started. So Deon, Cecile, I am going to introduce you. I'm going to just give a little bit of a blurb and then you can expand a little bit. And then we're going to jump into our topic today, which is what I like to call the cocoon butterfly effect, which is all about menopause and perimenopause and getting started. So, Deon Cecile, you are Jamaican, born and raised in Jamaica. Everybody knows you as Deon Cecile, even though you have a very long name, Deon Cecile, long name, but everybody calls you Deon Cecile. And when I was reading your bio, I thought it was quite interesting that you talked about you were a luminary and general management professional. And I like that because I think that I definitely see that coming through with your writings and stuff. So you are an avid writer and you are a creative force behind a thriving online community. So just going to tell you a little bit, founder and chief content creative. I am DeonCecile.com, which if you want to drop your link in the chat, we can, or when you're talking, I can do that. Also of the Feel Good magazine and Let's Talk Perry podcast, which I was so honored to be a guest on with amazing ladies. So I'm so thrilled to be able to have you back. So take it over from there, my girl. Tell us a little bit about what you do yourself and let's get rolling into this topic.
Well, as you said, I go by the name Deon Cecile. I think my parents did me a wonderful job when they gave me that name because I quite love it. And that is why I named my website after my name. My website is primarily geared towards women and more so women over 40. And so is my magazine and my podcast. my podcast is Let's Talk Peri, which started as a result of me going through the whole perimenopause journey and wanting to find out more about it, researching and getting more information that I could share with other females and try to create a community around it. So that is how that one started. And then which I started last year, August. And then the Feel Good magazine, again, is geared to highlighting women and their over 40 and their stories and helping them to go through life with a little bit more zest and zeal and more information and just having fun after 40. And that one was started in 2022. Both ideas came out of my shower. I like to call them my shower thoughts.
Oh, I love those.
Yes, and I'm an avid writer, as you said. I'm both a technical and a creative writer. So from the technical point, I'm a general management specialist who is focused on documentation, policies, procedures, training, etc. Yeah. So I do a lot of reading and writing on both fronts.
That sounds, so tell us a little bit about your magazine. Where do we get this magazine? Is it only online or is it in print as well?
It's online. It's a digital magazine. It's currently free, has been free, and I'm hoping that it can remain that way. Do I make any money from it yet? No, because it's something I just enjoy putting out and creating. And I do, when you see it, everything from cover to cover is designed, created, and written by myself. And I have stories in there that I have written in conjunction with other females to highlight their life and their stories. And I'll drop the link in the chat here, which is on my website. So you go there and download it and read as much as you like. There are currently 4 issues, because I only publish twice per year,
Okay.
June and December. And the next one is out next month, actually. So the 5th edition will be out next month.
Oh, that's exciting. Well, definitely. Thank you for popping those in the link. I think definitely I will be saving that for sure. So, all right. Well, that's awesome. Thank you so much for that. So let us get started into the topic of today, which as I said, I call it the cocoon butterfly effect. And the reason I like this is because, sorry, I'm just letting in people while we talk. Yeah, so the reason I like this topic is because the perimenopause to me represents that cocoon effect where you're starting on, you're in that struggle, you're into, we all know what the cocoon and the butterfly thing is, where we are in that struggle, we're trying to figure out who we are, the transformation of our bodies, what is going on. And it just seems like a struggle, truly is a struggle at this stage. And that's why I like to use that cocoon thing. Our bodies are transforming, our minds are transforming. Everything just seems to be such a huge shift, but it's leading to something big. So
Right.
this is why I love talking about this, because it's really talking about our strength. And when we talk about our wings, we talk about the butterfly, trying to emerge. Who are we emerging into? So
Right.
when I talk about that and I think about that, then we go into menopause. So I ask you, what is menopause? Perimenopause. How do I know if I am in perimenopause?
That's such a good question. Perimenopause is basically what I call the around menopause phase. So it's the beginning to the ending, to move into what we like to call the other phase, what you like to call chapter 2. So, right, so that is perimenopause. How do I know if I'm in perimenopause? You don't know until you know. That's
Okay.
how I like to put it. You don't know until you know. And I say that because I was going through it for almost a year or a little over a year and didn't know that that is what I was going through. How did I find out? I went through a series of panic attacks, which I hadn't had before. And I was like, when you know something is wrong with your body, but you just can't figure out what it is. You know something is changing and it's not the norm. It's not me having a migraine that is extended. It's not me having a sinus issue. It's not any of those things. You know something is changing in your body, but you can't figure out what it is. I had sleeping issues before, and then I noticed that my sleeping has just totally gone bonkers. right? I would be awake in the middle of the night. I have work the next morning. I can't concentrate. Everything, I'm getting agitated really easily. I'm having night sweats, which never used to happen before. And I'm like, what is happening to me? And then after I had a series of panic attacks, well, after I had the first one, I said, okay, something ain't right here because this is not me. This is not the norm. Yes, I know I'm under a lot of stress. I'm going through a lot of stuff at this time, but something is not right. I actually went to my cardiologist who I had to wear, string me up like, all of those different things. I had to be up for 24 hours to wear what they call a Holter meter because he also thought that I was having a heart arrhythmia and not perimenopause because you're in your 40s. Most doctors don't think, and I'm being very honest here because I went to quite a few, don't think that you are in perimenopause or heading to menopause because they don't think that. I think our female issues are underplayed, under discussed, if that's such a word. And it's just know that there's more conversation around it, that a lot of the doctors are coming into play with it and saying, okay, maybe this is what is happening to you. So after I went through the series of panic attacks and I did several tests, blood tests here and there and all kind of stuff, I went to my gynae and I did, when one of the doctors finally said to me, maybe you are going through perimenopause because you're displaying so many of these different signs that I've heard of. Note I said they heard of these things, and maybe that is what you're going through. And so I went to my gynae who did a hormone test. But the thing is, because I'm not into menopause yet, the hormone test won't tell you that you're in perimenopause. It will tell you when you're in menopause, but it won't tell you when you are in perimenopause. So the most important thing I think, Nikki, is that you have to know your body. You have to know your body and you have to know when something is not going right with it. And you question it and you question it and you question it. And if you're not getting the answers you think you need to get, go somewhere else. Keep asking the questions and have these kind of conversations.
Yeah.
And that is why I started a podcast as well, because I realized we needed to have open, honest conversations about what is happening with us. A lot of women are going through a lot of these things, but they find it difficult to have the conversations about it. And a lot of it too is because of culture, how we grew up, or how we were socialized, not to talk about things, not to talk about what is affecting us and how it is really affecting us. But I don't have those kind of hang-ups. So I will tell you that, and I can tell you exactly when I had my first panic attack, how I felt, the things that went through, what I went through, how my body felt, my reactions. I actually was dying. And this is like 2 o'clock in the morning when I don't have anybody else in the house with me. And I'm there thinking, okay, so I guess I'm going home to meet my maker tonight because I don't know what's going on. And then I start asking questions, and I'm not getting the answers, and I kept going. I went for like 3 months to different persons, asking questions, doing the different tests, until one person finally said, maybe this is what you're going through. So ladies, you have to know your bodies, and you have to be realistic, and you have to be honest with what is happening to you. And that's the only way you're going to determine whether or not you're in this phase, and how to deal with the different symptoms along with it.
Okay. You talked about the panic attacks, and I think that for so many people, it's different. Some people have panic attacks, the hot flashes, whatnot. So your panic attack was, you talked about, you thinking it was your heart, but for others, as I said, it can be, hot flashes, it can be mood swings, it can be everything. So I think it was important that you said that knowing your body and what does not feel right, that it's not just to be, oh, let's wait and see, let's check it out. Because as we have had in with our past guests, we have seen where peri can start from 40 and you may be 50 going, I have time, or you may be 45 and go, I have time. I think it's important that it's so vital that we talk about talk about it. Which you said you started with a gynae. Which other doctors did you go to?
I went to my regular GP. I went to my gynae. Well, I went to 2 GPs. I went to my gynae and I went to a cardiologist. And the reason for going to the cardiologist too is because I didn't know what it was. And I have a family history of heart issues. I was not taking any chances. And that's the other thing. A lot of the symptoms that we get from perimenopause and menopause, they mimic other things, or they highlight other ailments that we had before, and they get worse during perimenopause or menopause because we're having so much hormonal imbalances going on and so many hormonal changes going on. So it is important that if you notice something happening, just don't take it for granted to say, oh yes, your girlfriends or this person said, or the Google said it may be perimenopause or menopause. Go and get it checked as well, because it could be something else. And you could have an underlying condition that is now showing up because you're going through menopause.
Yeah, I like that. I think that it's really important that and you talked about not talking about it, and that's just such a stigma that I think of recent that I've noticed that we are starting to shift a big time about this M word that people don't want to talk about, for goodness sakes. And as I always say, menopause is happening with or without.
Without you.
So we get to choose whether we put on our armor, fight the battle, go with it, not see it as a battle, however we want to show up. I mean, everybody is going to be different. But the fact that we have choices and we have options to choose from, I think is vital. So perimenopause, I mean, I know this is a sort of like a blanket question, but how long does it last? Because it can vary, we know, but generally, how would you, what would you say to that?
Well, perimenopause, based on a lot of the research that is out there, says it lasts anywhere from 0 to 4 years or more, but the whole menopause journey can extend to 10 years or beyond. I actually have a friend who's beyond 10 years and counting, and she's still going through the whole menopause journey. So it depends, again, on your body, because everybody reacts differently, and no two females are the same. So some persons have been fortunate enough to go through the whole journey, because I have a friend who went through the journey and had not even a hot sweat, not even a change in hair color, nothing. She didn't even know that people go through this because she had nothing, no signs, no symptoms, no nothing. Her period just stopped one day and that was the end of the story. And that's it.
Fabulous.
While there are others who don't have such luck.
Fabulous.
Okay.
Yes. Fabulous if we could all be like that, eh? So yeah, exactly. it does vary from person to person. And I think, again, what you're saying is, again, just being very vigilant with what is going on with your body, what is working, what is not working, what feels right, what doesn't feel right. And just don't make any assumptions, because
exactly,
this is what we, as women, we don't have time, blah, blah, blah. We don't want to do this. So we make assumptions. It's gotta be menopause. Well, maybe it's not menopause.
Yeah. We make time for everybody else and everything else except us. Absolutely. And we need to change that and start taking care of self. Because if you don't take care of self, you have nothing to give anybody else.
Yeah, no, without a doubt. Okay, so you and I talk a little bit about, we talked about what was happening to the body. So you talked about your panic attacks and whatnot. So what are some of the other symptoms that maybe you have noticed that you could share with us? Because, as I said, some women may be having some of these things and they're not sure what it is,
Right.
So what are some of the other symptoms?
I have hot flashes, but not regular.
Okay.
They come and go, and I hope they go and never come back. Because it's like producing your own pool without paying anybody to come and build your pool. I remember the first time I had it, I'm sitting in my living room, and I think I was watching something on the telly, and I felt something on my legs. So I started brushing it off because I thought it was something crawling up my legs. I just brushed it off. But then when I looked at my hand was wet, and I said, okay, my hand wet. I didn't wash my hand. And I looked down and I was like, my entire shirt was soaking wet. I will not forget, I had on a green t-shirt and my t-shirt was soaking wet. There was water running down my legs. And I'm like, okay, so what is this now?
Mhm.
I called my girlfriend and I said, I'm sitting in my living room. There's water running down my legs. My shirt is wet and I don't know what's going on with me. And she said, how are you feeling? Hot? I was like, yeah, but I usually feel hot. She said, oh, you're having hot flashes and don't worry, you're going to feel chilly very soon. I was like, okay. And shortly after that, I started to, and I
Mhm.
had to go and grab that shirt, change my clothes, dry off. And I was like, is this what this is going to be? No, I'm not interested though. But yeah, so you will have the hot flashes, you will have the night sweats. I have the night sweats, which is horrible because it keeps me awake. And you can have the night sweats when you have on your AC, when you have on your fans. You're in bed, the AC is on full, the fan is going, and and wondering why. And then you can't sleep because it disturbs your sleep patterns. Um, and worse, if you're somebody who had sleeping issues before, that may get a little bit worse. But I found one thing that has worked for me so far, which is magnesium glycinate. And you can speak to your doctors about that to find out if that is something you can take. But that is something I have found that works beautifully for me at nights because it allows me to sleep.
Mhm.
And
Same.
it also works on your heart health, your joints, your bones, and it helps with anxiety as well. So it works beautifully for me. Um, I've not had much reaction with even Primrose. A lot of people recommend that one, but it hasn't really done anything for me.
Mhm.
So I really don't take it anymore. But the magnesium glycinate has worked for me.
Okay.
What else do I have apart from the hot flashes, night sweats? The irritability, and maybe that's an after 40 thing, not necessarily. I get irritated by the simplest things because I think people also know better and do better, and it just annoys me. But I can go from 0 to 100 pretty quickly,
Mhm.
um, which wasn't that quite that before. Yes, it was to a certain extent, but it wasn't quite that. So I know I get very irritable very quickly. So those are some of the things that I have gone through so far. The worst being the panic attacks because those put you in a state of fear, actually.
No, panic attacks are definitely the worst, I would imagine, out of all of them. I know that, with the whole heart issue, we talked about this in a couple of past episodes where we said heart palpitations, that it could be, as you said, something more sinister. So that is very important.
Right.
But it does affect the heart, it does affect the anxiety levels, the sleep levels. I know you talked about the magnesium. That has been hands down my savior for over a year now, that I take that every day. And from I started that, I sleep like a baby, and it is just absolutely
I
fantastic.
still have sleeping issues, but not as bad as before.
Oh no, I had sleeping issues, but even as you talked about, you're sleeping, all of a sudden you wake up and you're like, okay, what's going on? And I sleep in air conditioning every night. My poor husband has the covers up to his neck, and he is cold, and I am sweating, and it was frequent trips to go to the bathroom for the bladder, and then you get back in the bed and the anxiety starts, and it was just a whole mess of, oh my goodness. And then of course you wake up in the morning and you feel awful. So just doing the magnesium every day, I don't do it necessarily before I sleep. Some people do. I just take it every day in my smoothie, and that has been a game changer. So when we
Okay.
talk about, when you look online, of course, you see, a length, the mile of a football field, of symptoms. And I think it's important that for each of us that we don't assume or attach ourselves to each one, because we may have an inclination of it. Oh, yep, I've got it. Oh, yep, I've got it. So I think, again, it goes back to what your body is doing.
What he's going
It
through.
is going through a stage, as again, I talk about this cocoon stage where your body is fighting to figure out what's happening to it.
Mhm.
So being able to have the tools to go through, which is what we'll talk about shortly. But some of the couple of other things that we've talked about in previous episodes are, obviously having irregular menstrual cycles, irregular periods where, you go for 4 months and have nothing, and then boom, you think, okay, I'm on my way, and then yay, here we
Shows
go
up.
again. And she shows up, and you're like, okay, and then you get this sort of feeling, oh my God, I have to start from scratch all over again. So I think it's important a mindset is put into place. It's about the journey. It's not about getting where we're going, but it's about how we are on this journey of
Yes.
menopause. So irregular periods, hot flashes, another one we had talked about in previous episodes, and I encourage everybody to watch between Sharon, Dr. Bridgewater, and then, excuse me, what did you sneeze? All the episodes. We talked about vaginal dryness. Natalie shared last week a lot of supplements in her store that she highly recommends for things like that. Bathroom runs. We talked about sleep problems, and you also talked about the moods, the irritability, and feeling like you could just chew everybody's head off at any moment.
Yeah.
Kind of unfortunate, but then again, so we have all of these symptoms. We think we're in perimenopause. We're not sure what to do with all of this.
And
It can
there
be
are two,
overwhelming.
there are two others. There's one that in our discussion when you were on my podcast, one person spoke about the burning mouth, which I never knew about before, I never heard about before. And I was really surprised because I was like, okay, so what is that exactly? But it's the whole thing that you have to, most persons when they have it, have to be constantly having ice or something to try and cool the mouth because there's this burning sensation in there. So thankfully, I have not experienced that. There's also persons have reported that they have their partners are dying for them to come back to normal, etc., etc. Thank God that has not been my journey. But everybody goes, I said, everybody goes through things differently. Oh, you spoke about the urinary thing, the frequent urination, and that's, yeah, that can be a little bit problematic, especially if you're on the road and you're up and down and stuff. In the chat, I'm seeing where Carrie says low libido and headaches. Yes, you can have more headaches, and especially if you're prone to migraines, etc. That can be heightened during that, because of the fluctuations in your hormones and all the changes that's happening with you.
Yeah, we talked about that in Bridgewater's series.
Okay.
We talked about that. The headaches are, I mean, it's not, not because everybody has headaches, but you can actually tell the difference between, say, a sinus headache versus a hormonal pressure headache. So again, headaches are definitely because your hormones are fluctuating. So without a doubt.
Right. But again, everything you have to check on whether or not this is what is happening to you. Don't take it for granted that, oh, I'm having a headache and it's because of perimenopause or menopause, especially if it's something that is prolonged.
Yeah.
Go and see your doctor and have a conversation, because it could be something else.
Absolutely, without a doubt. So on that, I'm just checking the chat. Sure, Kai, I will send you an email. I'm not sure what's happening with the link, why you're not able to, maybe there's just a glitch in it, but I'll make sure that you're able to log on. I made a note of that to check. So thank you for sharing that. Okay, so when do I talk to my doctor about these things, and how do I prepare for the appointment? Because again, as women, we don't want to go in there, whining and complaining that we're having these things. And then the other option, the other thing, which is what you talked about, was some of the doctors are not believing us. Some of the people are saying, yeah, it's a myth. And so how do we prepare for that? How do we prepare for an appointment? What kind of questions do we ask? How do we navigate that?
I would say, if you're like me, I write down everything. So when I go in there, I go in with paper, or you can put it on your phone. Have all of your questions prepared. make a list of all the things that have been happening to you and for how long, how you felt. Don't leave out anything. Have everything noted. You had this on, if you can remember the dates, that would be good. But if you can't, then you just estimate how long you've been having these kind of feelings, what kind of feelings they have been, and what changes you've seen happening in your body as well, and have those conversations. Make sure you talk about that. Ask the questions. What is my next step? Okay, so I may be in perimenopause. I'm going into menopause soon. What do I do? Are there tests that I need to do? Is there something else I need to look out for? If you're going to your gynae, they will more than likely recommend that you do hormone tests. That will tell you what your levels are, your estrogen, your progesterone, etc. And you can do those on an annual basis. And then you use that to track whether or not how far depleted you are and what is the next step. Do you take HRTs? Do you take other forms of supplements? What is it that you do? You change your diet? All of those things, but make sure that you have all of those questions ready to ask. And if you're not getting the answers, or the answers that you're getting don't seem to give you any level of satisfaction, go somewhere else. Yeah, go somewhere else. Don't just stay one place because that is a person you may have been going to for a while, or is somebody new that you just went to. If you're not getting any answers that you feel comfortable with, go somewhere else. But have your questions and make a note of everything that's happening and go with them.
Yeah, I think that is amazing. What I did for me personally was just on the notes app on my phone, I just started to document, my cycle. Because as women, we forget, I mean, how many of us have gone to a doctor's appointment and they ask you, when's the date of your last period? And you go, I have no clue because we're so busy. So that's something that I did, and it was a huge game changer for when I went to, because Bridgewater was my doctor, was that she was able to see, on, off, on, off, on, off, and then, so even just on your phone, as you said, on the notes app or whatever app, there are apps that you can track these things. Just make a note of your symptoms, make a note of, as you said, of all of your symptoms, make a note of whatever changes that you're having with the whole cycle. I mean, changes in your personal thing, in, relations with your partners or your husband, what is different, so that she can, the more information they have.
Right. And one of the things we as women need to do when we go to doctors, and this is not just your gynae or any doctor, open your mouth and talk. Talk about what is happening. We have a tendency to go in and just, I don't want them to know that, or that's probably a little bit too much information. It's the too much information that is going to help them, though.
That's right. Absolutely.
Talk.
Yep.
If you don't talk, you don't know, they will not be able to help you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. And then we turn around and say, oh, but they don't know this and they don't know that. But if you're going in there with your mouth shut and you're not saying what is happening to you, they can't help you, because they can't help to diagnose what is happening based on what you've told them. Yeah. And stuff like that. So you have to, Marsha says, I use a period tracker app on my phone. Yeah, you can use that. The other thing is, if you do not have a period any at all, like I do, I don't have a period. So I wear an IV to stop my period because I have endometriosis. And because of that, I don't have a period any at all. So for me to detect when I'm going into menopause is harder. Okay. Hence why I have to do my hormone test annually now to know exactly when it is that I've moved on over to that phase, because I won't have a period to tell me that, okay, you've been gone for 6 months, but now you're back, or you're gone for the full 12 months and you've never come back. I won't have that option. So I have to do the hormone tests to be able to track what it looks like year over year. And then I'll know whether or not I'm full-blown menopause or not.
That's very interesting. I didn't realize that with the whole IUD thing. That's very interesting, because that's important information everybody needs to know, because we use this period as it's exactly what it is. You're in menopause when you haven't had a period for 12 months. I mean, that's your benchmark, but for some women, as you said, they're in a different situation. So that's excellent to know information to share with your doctor. Okay, so we have all of these symptoms. We have all of these things going on. We've been to our doctor. We're not kind of, maybe we're going to the doctors. Let's talk a little bit. And this is kind of like a recap of what I've done in previous episodes,
Right.
which I will make sure that the link is working for everybody. But what changes should I be making now that I'm in this cocoon phase so that the struggle is not as painful or hard or seen as, oh, because most women that I speak to and I say, oh, yeah, the immediate reaction is, or, you know, it's hard, or they're depressed, and I get it because I'm in it myself and I totally appreciate that. But how we do have tools that can help shift that, how we approach our perimenopause stage, because we always talk about menopause. And I mean, we've seen Oprah has done a beautiful show, probably about a year ago. And a doctor on her show said, you actually never end menopause. So you're in menopause from you're deemed you're in menopause, you're 12 months without a period. You are in your menopause period. So your third chapter, then, if you will, if mine is a chapter 2, your third chapter is actually menopause until you die. You never come out of menopause.
We call it post-menopause.
Or they'll say post-menopause, but truthfully, you're never out of this stage of your life. So
Because the entire journey is menopause.
absolutely.
Perimenopause, menopause, post-menopause is
Exactly.
just pause.
Exactly.
Right.
So how we get through this is going to be really important, how we show up on this journey. And this is something that I'm very passionate about, being a life coach, and my chapter 2. And this is why we created all of this. So there are a couple of lifestyle and home remedies. We talked about magnesium. There's alternate methods that we can do. So I'll start off with some of the life and the home remedies that we've spoken about. In our past episodes, we talked about, women shared with us, like vaginal dryness or low libido. There's so much on the shelves now that can help with that. And women must not be ashamed to talk about it, or even speak to your doctor, speak to your partner, speak to your nutritionist, whoever it is. There are things that can ease that if you go to the health food store, or even the supermarket has them, over-the-counter lubricants and that kind of stuff that can help with that. We talked about diet. That was something that Sharon spoke about, Bridgewater spoke about, Natalie spoke about. Changing your diet, being able to eat more healthy. Incorporate if you go online, you can, more, phytoestrogen type foods, soy, different type of things. I know there's the whole soy argument is one that can cause a big problem, but they do say that for women who are in their perimenopause stage, that if you don't have breast cancer in your family, or you don't have cancer, that you should be having those estrogen mimicking foods. So do your research, speak to your doctor. They talk about low fat, high fiber diet, fruits, vegetables, really trying to cut out the processed stuff, because we are what we eat, and that's the bottom line.
Right.
If we eat like crap, we're going to feel like crap. It's just how our body, and in our cocoon phase, I find that we're even more heightened by this. We have there in past episodes, women were talking about food allergies that they've never had before, that have popped up because menopause, because your whole system is changing. So again, working with that.
I'm not allergic to shellfish. I was never allergic to shellfish before. I'm now allergic to shellfish.
Oh, that's incredible.
Yeah, so if I want to eat shrimp or lobster, I have to pop a Benadryl, pop a Histol, and then take a little bit of it. But yeah, I'm not allergic to shellfish.
You see, your case in point right there, that our bodies are changing. This cocoon effect that we're going through is real. We are feeling this struggle, this energy shift, this physical shift. Everything is shifting. So being able to honor ourselves to do this. So Sharon talked about this big time and Natalie, being active, regular exercise, physical activity that helps not only our tummies and our bums that are maybe spreading, but also our minds. You know, the idea of walking, Mel Robbins and many of her podcasts, one of them I was listening to on Saturday, she had her 86-year-old mother-in-law who walks 4 miles every morning. She just gets up, she puts an audio book in her headphones, and she just walks 4 miles. She's 86 years old. She drinks her protein shake. But you know, she's moving because, and she's 86, so she's definitely post menopause. But the movement, for the mind, it helps your mood, it helps your sleep. So, and of course, everything you're seeing online now, they're talking about adding weights, trying to do more weight resistance training, because our bones are now being affected by the perimenopause menopausal stage. So being able to, I've actually started doing that, trying to lift more weights to try and build up some bone, so that, God forbid, I fall, knock wood.
Mass, right. I just dropped in the chat a YouTube video, which is an extract from one of my podcasts that I spoke to Sharon, because Sharon was on the podcast as well. And we spoke about diet and nutrition and fitness. And I extracted the whole thing about strength training.
Okay, great.
So I just dropped it in the link in the chat a while ago. But yeah, strength, I'm very bad with the exercise part, and I know that is something I need to work on. And when I listened to one of your sessions with Sharon again, I was like, you know, I really need to get my act together, because it's repeated so many times that you really need to get the exercise in, because that is what will help with your mind, especially. Yes, you'll get all of the benefits of having the beautiful body at the end of the day, but it really, really works on your mind. And that is one of the things that we have to strengthen as well while going through this, because depression is real.
Oh, absolutely.
Depression is real while you're going through this, and you have to find ways to cope. And if you're in a relationship, you need to have these conversations with your partner, because they will not understand why it is that you're biting off their head. You don't want them to touch you. You don't want to go anywhere. You don't want to do anything. They have to understand what it is that you are going through. And if you don't talk to them, they're never going to know. They're just going to assume that, yeah, she deserves it. End of story. But
No,
you need to have conversations with them so they understand what is going on with you.
Absolutely. Talking about that, I'm glad that you brought that up, as relationships. It's not only with your partner, because I mean, that's, to me, is the most important. Your partner, your husband, being able to express exactly what is happening, because I've always said, you know, they are not mind readers. And most men, you know, and believe it or not, men are going through their own menopause or their own journey, let's call it. They do go through something, but I think it's important that as women, we stand up not only for ourselves, as far as, you know, speaking to our doctors and stuff, but standing up for ourselves in our relationships, being able to come to the table and say, listen, this is what's on my heart. This is what is bothering me. This is what is upsetting me, and creating that energy, but not only with your spouses or your partners, but your children, your parents, your co-workers. This was another thing that keeps coming across, is even in your workplace. You have women are more in the workplace now, and there's a whole heap of women, you know, and you have a male boss, they have no clue how to handle, you know, when all these women start to go, you know, off, then if you will, you know, having these men be able to understand, okay, this is how I'm going to handle it. So I think that it's important that wherever you are, that you have that discussion with your co-workers on what is really happening. So I'm glad that you brought that up, that relationship thing. Sleep, we talked about sleep.
You brought up the one about your work relationships as well. And if I am to admit it now, I think that's why I left my last job. Because I was going through this and did not know what I was going through. I was irritable. Everything got on my last nerve. I was depressed. I was anxious. Nothing seemed to be going right. And I just decided I'm going to pick it up and go home. And I packed it up and went home. And it's only almost a year later, I'm saying, okay, so maybe this is what was really affecting me.
Wow.
Yes, there are other situations, but maybe this is what was affecting me that made everything seem worse.
Mhm.
But I'm sorry, no, moved on. But what I like about the topic that you chose, the whole cocoon, the butterfly effect, in our 40s and beyond, is a beautiful transition if we allow it to be just that. It is a beautiful transition. We speak our minds. We
Mhm.
don't put up with bullcrap anymore. We do things that are more aligned with who we are. And we find ways to, how I like to put it, make our soul happy at this phase. And that is something I never understood before I got to 40.
Mhm.
And know that I'm almost 50. I'm realizing, okay, so this is a transition. This is a transformation. This is what has been happening. And I'm enjoying every bit of it. Yes, we have our challenges. And yes, it comes with different nuances that you don't like all the time. But it's how you approach a lot of these things that makes it different.
Absolutely. No, without a doubt. I mean, this is such a beautiful time for us as women. And as women, a lot of us don't see it as that. So I'm glad that you made note of that, because we see it as something terrible that is happening to us, or something terrible that we're going into, rather than reframing it into something that, as you said, is a beautiful experience. So again, I talk about the cocoon butterfly, because we are in the cocoon stage, maybe in the perimenopause, maybe before you reach perimenopause, you're in that cocoon building stage. And then you create this beautiful creature, this butterfly that is so beautiful, so free, so spirited. And it's all because you've gone through this transformation stage, and what you've gone through and how you've gone through it. And so how you navigate this is all on us, because it's happening to us, ladies. And I think it's important that we embrace it. We have the tools. There's so much information out there about menopause, perimenopause, postmenopause, for us to adapt into our daily lives. I mean, as a life coach, this is what I teach. This is what I talk about nonstop is, and I'm also going through menopause myself, is how can I show up each day better than I did yesterday, and own what is going on with me. If I find that I'm snapping with my husband and he's just like, what's going on here? I step back, I do a little introspection, I come back, okay, this is what is happening. It's just own what we're feeling, because it's real. It's when we try and say, no, this is it's not going to work. So using the tools and the things that we have are important.
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, and there's so much. And when in our past episodes we talked about the stress reducing techniques. You and I have talked a lot about this, from yoga to meditation to I teach mindfulness. Just being able to create every day the best version that you can, given what you're going through. So I think it's amazing that we've been given this opportunity. I mean, a lot of women are not given this opportunity to get this far. So while we're here, so let's talk a little bit about, because we have about 10 minutes left. I know, let these ladies get back to work. Our personal experiences. I know you have shared a lot of what has, but you are evolving. And you are doing this Let's Talk Perry stuff. What else do you have that you're coming up, that you're talking about, that you're sharing with your ladies?
What else do I have coming up? Well, the next episode of Let's Talk Perry is actually this Sunday at 6 p.m. Jamaica time. The topic is unknown. Which
Oh,
is
is
how
that
yeah, this Sunday's topic is unknown. I usually have them planned out, but this one is not. So we're going to probably just have a catch-up session, chit-chat, and try to find out what's going on with the women in that community this Sunday at 6 p.m. Apart from that, I have my weekly newsletter that goes out on a Wednesday. It's called Penned Wednesday, Penned. It's a little bit of fun. It's a little bit of educational stuff, and just to make you get over the slum of a Wednesday, because midweek, yeah. So it's my midweek happy theme, which is my Pen Wednesday. And then I have the magazine that's coming out next month. So I have a lot of writing to do. I have my magazine that's coming out next month. And yeah, my usual blog post, which comes out whenever I get my downloads and I write. So I
Okay.
don't have a frequency for that.
Right.
But I try to keep up with my newsletter on a Wednesday. So you can always, anybody who wants to join the newsletter, they can always send me an email at my Gmail account, which I just dropped in the chat. I will add you to the listing so that you can get the newsletter on Wednesdays as well. And through that newsletter, you can, I dropped one of the YouTube links that I dropped in the chat will lead you to the Let's Talk Perry podcast link. So you can watch all the previous episodes and the future episodes as well and subscribe to that channel so you get updates. We also have a WhatsApp group, which you're a part of as well, Nikki, where we drop little insights and little fun stuff, and talk about what is happening to us during this phase. So if you're willing to join that as well, we do not do a lot of talking in that group at all. And we only discuss things that are relevant to the menopause journey. So you can also join that if you're in. I don't know if there's anybody in the chat who had a question. I think we answered the ones that were in the chat already. But if there's anybody else who wants to ask any questions, I think we have a little time left.
Yeah, we have a little bit of time left. Yeah, that was wonderful. Drop your questions in here. So what we could do is close off on support. Something that I am very passionate about is support. I think that a lot of women going through this tend to feel alone. They don't want to share what is going on, but more and more the power of supporting women. I mean, myself, I have a chat group that I share every day. I think there's like 40 or 50 women in the group, but it's just to be able to share with each other, this is what is going on. It's not necessarily about menopause, but we just share, cheerlead each other on. But I think support is very important when you're going through this, because as you've mentioned earlier about depression is a big thing. Women do get depressed. They do, when their bodies are changing and their clothes are not fitting them anymore, they start to turn inward. What have I done? Have I eaten too much cake? Have I had too much soda? Whatever. We turn on ourselves as women, I find, rather than acceptance of this is where we are now, and
Exactly.
reaching out for support and talking about it, because there are so many different groups, resources all over that you can, or even start your own. I mean, being able to start, exactly, and I did that too. Start your own. It's to be able to support everybody, and it's a safe space for everybody to share what is going on and get information. I mean, even just me doing these 4 Mondays, I have learned so much information for myself that cannot wait to get started in, as I said, we're doing it again in June, to be able to see how I can take this further. So it's really important that we talk about supporting each other and getting through this stage. And I don't even like to say getting through this stage, because as I said, it's about the journey, and how you want to show up is to how you want to show up on this. It's not a matter of getting through it, because guess what, ladies, you're in this. It's not changing. You can only grow and become stronger women and become more beautiful, powerful people with the tools, with all the information from your nutritionist to your gynecologist to your girlfriend to your doctor to your priest to your singing group, whoever it is that you come together with. We can only get stronger on this journey and rise even that higher through this and become these beautiful butterflies that you see in this cocoon phase. So don't despair. This phase is a beautiful phase that we're going to go through, and then we will emerge these beautiful butterflies on the other side.
And you said something that that I'm very passionate about, that women supporting women in all aspects. we tend to have this culture of, oh, but if I support her, then this is not going to work for me. And that doesn't make any sense.
Mhm.
You have been on my podcast. I am on your show. Sharon has been on my show. Sharon has been on your show. And there are many other persons like that. And we support each other, even though we are all doing different aspects of the same thing. But we all support each other on the journey and how to help each other to grow and to build our own things.
Absolutely.
So I'm really heavy on women supporting women, and I really wish that there were more women out there who think like that and
Yeah.
don't have the mindset that if I do it, then it's going to take away something from me. It doesn't.
No.
It
No.
actually adds to you and adds to your value.
Yeah. And there's no comparison. We don't bring in comparison into this because we're all unique and we all
Exactly.
are on this journey. So it's really to learn from each other, build each other up on this. And I think that is fantastic. So as I said at the start of this, for the ladies who weren't on here, I am doing this again in June. We have 3 more guests lined up, which I will start promoting that this week. We're so excited. I got them all confirmed last week. So it'll be not Menopause Mondays in May anymore because it'll be June, but it'll definitely be Menopause Mondays in June, where we are going to have different guests on, doctors. We have physiotherapists. We have a heart doctor. I'm just so excited. I can't wait to get that content going up. And as a result of us doing this 4 sessions, both Natalie and myself have offered bonuses. Natalie is offering a 15% discount in her store. I had sent out emails in the recording, so if anybody didn't get it, let me know. I'm also offering a free coaching call, 30 minutes coaching call for any ladies who want to. It's just a safe space. It doesn't have to be coaching. Even if you just want to say, this is what is happening, I am offering that free 30-minute call for those. But that's also in the emails, but we're going into June shortly. So I think this has been amazing. Thank you so much, Deon. I so appreciate you taking your lunch hour to chat with us. And ladies, thank you so much for joining. And for the ones watching the replay, I will make sure the link is working. And we are going to do this journey together, ladies. Please reach out. If anybody has any questions, you can message Deon or myself or Natalie. I'm sorry she couldn't be with us today. She had a flight that she couldn't rearrange. So, but she will definitely be on with us in June.
Thank you for having me as well, Nikki. And it's, as usual, a pleasure having conversations with you. And I can't wait for us to do this again.
Absolutely. Lots of love, ladies. Take care. Bye.
Enjoy the rest of your lunchtime.
Yes, you do.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.